Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Independent City Council meeting. It's Tuesday, August 29th. It's 2017. It's 6:30 in the evening, and it's been warm outside, and I think we're all dressed because it was warm outside. And although in a couple months we'll probably be grumpy because it's cold outside and wet. Let the record show that the councilors all here with smiling and happy faces. See, I get smiling and happy faces.
And full of energy.
There you go. In front of you, I think you have some corrected minutes, some adjusted minutes.
No, they aren't corrected. They're just the ones that should have been in the packet.
Excuse me. Thank you very much. So there are minutes in front of you from the August 8th meeting. And are they okay with people? Is that a motion?
Yes, it is.
I have a motion
And a second.
and a second. There's discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, motion carries very much. We have a person to make a public comment today, Herb Jolliffe. Good evening. Feel free to step to the podium and share with us. You have about 3 minutes, and feel free to visit with us. And I think staff, you may want to track some of this. We may be able to answer some of these questions in a future presentation later.
Mayor and council, my name is Herb Jolliffe. I live at 618 Austin Street. From my point of view, I'm a newbie here. I've only been here 13 years. I've been attached to the community since 1965 to other ways, mainly a farm over on Gun Club Road. Question I have about the water rights, I guess about 3, is how do we determine how much water right we wanted? And have we looked at the possibility that if we get in this great flood, that maybe the farmers are going to have water rights that are unlimited water rights, and there's not going to be water. So how do we balance that? And the other thing is I noted that there's going to be 1.3 million gallons per day of water is what we had a right for. And I wonder how we chose that, considering that the city of Cornelius now uses 1.3 million gallons of water per day, and I believe they're a little over 12,000 population. So I'm wondering if I expect all of these things have been looked at, but I'd like to hear about it.
Great. I think that's going to be part of the conversation a little bit later this evening. Mr. Klein?
Adam, are you prepared to address those during your presentation?
Whatever is appropriate. I'm wanting to ask
No.
questions about those.
Yeah, well, our staff.
Yeah, there will be a presentation on the whole water rights acquisition, and I think during that presentation, we've taken note of your questions, and I think we'll attempt to address those as well.
The other thing I would say, I have been involved a little bit with water. I did make like the president water master for a water district for 14 years.
Okay.
Much smaller, but I still get notices from the state board about meetings.
Okay. Well, thank you, and I'm sure that those will be covered in the presentation a little later on this evening. Thank you for taking time. Are there others? Okay. Thanks so much. Under mayor comments tonight, I have a number of things. First, council, we are adding an executive session at the end of our regular session, but before we go into a work session. So we'll add an executive session under real property transactions. That's the first line. Second, I just want to let you know I had the pleasure of meeting with Stacy Joachim from Senator Merkley's office. She's the new regional person, and she had a chance to come over and see our little bit about independence, and she's learning more about it. The significance of working with congressional staff is not to be underestimated. We have had, when we've had to deal with the folks at the air park, having had to deal with the FAA on occasion, having a United States Senator be passionately interested with staff has made a huge, I can't tell you how big a difference it made. We met a couple years ago, we had a chance to, because of good staff work here and they knew us, they were able to respond very quickly, get the FAA to actually come see what the problem, where they inappropriately used some administrative rules, and we were able to help them understand. And so now the Independence Air Park is an example of best practice in the United States. And when I met with them in Washington, D.C., that congressional help was so important. Same thing with our sports fields and the amphitheater. Civilian military projects, congressional and Senate help is very, very helpful in getting that kind of work. So anyway, just wanted to let you know that there was a reach out there. I had the opportunity this weekend, the community fiesta took place, and I had the chance to speak to the crowd and let them, and welcome the crowd, let them know that we are a community that welcomes everybody, and whether they be single folks, families, old people, young people, business folks, and they really appreciated that, and I've had the opportunity to do that for a number of years. It is a huge, predominantly Latino group, and there were literally thousands and thousands. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 4,000 to 5,000. When I went by a meeting, there was lots of people, and I think the next morning there was also a church service in the amphitheater. It is an incredibly family-friendly event, and I'm really honored to have been asked to speak to it. The final thing, I wanted to take a moment, and I'm going to let council, you get a chance to weigh in a little bit on this also. I just want to offer to the city staff, to the volunteers, to so many people that helped make Indy Goes Dark a huge success on so many fronts. I had a chance to visit with people, as all of you did, that came from Canada, California, Michigan, Washington, folks from near and far that came to our community for all or part of 4 days, and they all said the same things, completely unencouraged. They talked about how friendly it was here. They talked about how they wanted to come back here again because it was a great place. They talked about how this was exactly the kind of community they would hope it would be. A number of the business people had their best days ever. And I know many other cities had similar kinds of things, but the folks from CNN came down, and they were really impressed when they started wandering around town. And they came and we got some airtime on CNN, and people were really thrilled. And I just want to say that I know there was a lot of work by the staff to put things together, an awful lot of work and late nights. The CERT folks were very much involved. There were so many people that put a wonderful foot forward. And let me talk about some of the benefits that have already started. I talked to Aaron Young. He was having people wander into his business, the real estate business, going, we're interested in looking at houses here. We're considering, and there is, as Sean Irvine has pointed out from economic development, there are people who have businesses, people who are looking to invest. They also vacation just like we do. They also go other places. And where do they like to go? Where they're treated well, where people are warm and friendly. It was just truly wonderful. I was very proud on so many levels. And I just wanted to publicly commend everybody that made it happen. And I know it takes a real team. The team that's up here, the team that's there, the team in the community, and it really just makes it. And I could go on, and I probably shouldn't. But I just wanted to offer. And I know if anybody else wants to add anything, we're going to kind of fold this in, and we have a little video I guess we could see also. Anybody have anything else they'd like to add?
I just say the week prior, I had some meetings with some of our staff, and everybody I met with looked so tired, but they were, and I knew they were working so hard, and they still had the whole weekend to go through and Monday to go through, and it was amazing the effort I thought that staff put forth for us.
Great.
I had someone from North Dakota come to the info booth, which is where the Downtown Association was working, and I was volunteering in that capacity. And he said, whoever did this, tell them that I think they did a good job of putting together a party for us on such short notice.
That's great. And I gotta tell you, there were so many things going on. The air park, I know there were people sleeping under wings of planes.
Under wings, we had campgrounds there.
Yeah.
We had a record turnout for airplanes. It was a happening place out there.
That's great. That's wonderful.
I hosted a number of planes in my taxiway since it's not being used. But
You were everybody's friend.
yeah,
That's
yes,
great.
we had our own campers.
That's great. Anything else? Did you wish to add anything, Mr. Klein?
Sure, I was just say a couple comments on my report as well, but you'll have a more full report next time about, as far as financial report. But I agree, I mean, the staff and the volunteers and everybody that were involved just did yeoman duty. You're right, Tom, they were tired before the event. Monday afternoon, people were walking zombies because there were people there from, absolutely burning both ends of the candle through the weekend and just having a heck of a time. I mean, with work, it was just a heck of a lot of fun. You named a lot of people, where people came from. I ran into people from Poland, from Ireland that were there. We had, we really truly had people from all over the world. So it was really, obviously a once in a lifetime experience for all of us. And it was really just a whole lot of fun being a part of. Anyway, we do have a video if you'd like to, just a short one, but it's just kind of a little bit of a recap.
Why not? Make it so. I've always wanted to say that.
Let's agree not to have another one of these for at least 10, 20 years.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, everybody who made that happen. Proud to live in our community. Okay, with that, let's move on to the next agenda items. We have some reports this evening, and Mr. Day, I think you have a couple of reports for us this evening.
I've handed out summary, financial summaries, and I'm not sure if the staff has it, but Karen has them. And this is just a comparison of, for the year, comparing back to the previous year, our budget for this year we just ended, and then looking at next year's budget. Just kind of as you go down through it, some of the key things. If you look at revenue, not really changing a lot between the previous year and this year. But you look at cost of goods sold, and you can see there's about, roughly speaking, about a almost $200,000 difference. The reason is that there was fewer people looking at cable TV, but more people buying data, plus there were some price increases in data and cable TV. But you see that data is at a much higher gross margin. So when you look at gross margin dollars, we're up about 330,000 and about 4% or 4 percentage points. Operating income going from 1.22 to 1.52 100,000. So 1.5 million. Significant increase. Compare it to next year's budget. It's only $100,000 higher next year. We've done our price increases. Not going to see any benefit, or not going to see any additional price increases, other than probably in cable when our costs go up. I like what we're seeing as far as the amount that the city of Independence, or one that is paying, is going in the right direction. From $550 in 15-16 to 285 and budgeted, $385 and budgeted at 285. Now, caveat there, we held back some money this year for the GPON, the improvement, the refresh, the upgrade of the equipment and services. We don't have that in the budget for this coming year. So if we want to do that, depending on where we're at as far as finances go, but if we choose to do that, then those numbers might go up. So it'll be something that we'll have to decide how we want to handle it. But overall, the right direction.
Great, thank you. You want to just roll right into anything related to Parks and Recreation?
I'm going to let Sean do that. We talked about it. He's up to speed way more than I am.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Irvine.
Really just kind of a couple of main things to touch on. One, there's a group of local kids in Vance and Monmouth that have been advocating for a new skate park. We kind of set them a challenge. They identified a design company they wanted to work with who said, hey, $1,500, we'll do a preliminary design and cost estimate, something to kind of get the wheels turning. And so we said, hey, you guys can raise $500, we'll match that with $1,000 and get this going. They raised the $500 in about a month. They're really excited, so that's going to be gearing up probably September, October, as far as the initial community meeting to talk about, basically start diving into the concept a little bit more. And then also other design works. We are also going to be gearing up, as you'll see with my action item later in this meeting, a couple different park design projects as well with regard to the river. We're hoping to spin those up a little bit quicker, but it's taking a little bit of time. But we're getting ready to get those going. There's going to be some public process with some of them. The Parks Commission is going to be involved pretty heavily with that as well. So that's probably the main pieces for the Parks Commission.
Great, thank you for that report. Thanks, Councilor Day. Councilor Martin Willis, anything from the Planning Commission at this point? Well, that makes an easy report.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Mr. City Manager, this is your opportunity.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. A few things. So, you completed the conversation about the eclipse, so I want to follow up on that. We do have a meeting, a follow-on meeting scheduled for several of us to talk about the homelessness issue. There is an IGA that has been an intergovernmental agreement that has been prepared and in draft between the cities of Salem, Kaiser, and Marion County that we are being invited to participate in. So we'll be following up with a meeting next week to see under what terms what that would mean, and then hopefully be bringing back a document for you to consider at a coming council meeting, see whether you want to participate in that effort. It won't be a significant cash outlay, but it'll be it's just a question of how you want, what your appetite for that is. So that's coming forward.
So the work at Independence Landing, the public work is nearing completion.
If you've been out there, the landscaping's in, except for a couple of trees. There's still a little bit of sidewalk work that's being done, both on Hospital Lane as well as in front of Mechanico's bigger work. That'll probably be, that work in front of Mechanical was left out until after the Eclipse event, so we didn't conflict with what was going on with that event. So that will be done over into next week with the sidewalk work. Paving is still a little bit of an unknown, the last little bit of paving is left, because it's awfully hard to get all the pavers in this now. So there was a scheduling problem that the contractor ran into. So hopefully it'll be.
What is it that's going on in front of Mechanicals? Is that, what is it?
It's an extension of the sidewalk treatment that's down
That's
there.
just strictly sidewalk? Just-
Or, yeah, curb better sidewalk, the wide walks, the nice lights, more landscaping. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what heads up there exactly, but it's just a continuation of that same treatment that you see along here and down there. So we have, so at least everything on the east side of the street has a matching treatment from the city, from the civic center to the bridge. There's a small gap on the west side that is in front of some residential properties. And we really weren't able to fund that this year, nor was there an appetite from the property owners for us to do that at this point. So we may come back to that at a later time.
And so everything, the contractor won't demobilize entirely until the project's done.
Their work timing has taken them to this point, which is, there will remain through the end of September. They have the rest of their job will be done probably in September, along with any kind of punch list. And we think that punch list may be a little bit extensive. We'll see how they tend to issue it in advance of that. But hopefully by the end of September, they will be done and out of here well before the heavy rains begin. So for those issues.
We have seen the first draft of the old City Hall a condition assessment, so we will be finalizing that and getting that to you probably at the next meeting or the meeting afterwards. Want to meet amongst some of us to see what is our appetite to proceed in what direction with that. The cost figures are not insignificant, so we'll come back to you with all of that at some point. But just let you know that's here for comment. If many of you may recall, also in the old City Hall, we ended up with a deficiency judgment on the foreclosure. So meaning that even though we got the building back, there was still amount due to the city from the prior owner of the property. That person had another property in town which they've had under contract for sale. I don't believe it's closed as yet. So after that's gone through some legal machinations, but we should collect some or all of that deficiency judgment, which is somewhere between 15 and 20,000. So it's worth going after. So we met earlier today for the second time with our rate consultant. That work is starting to crystallize. We will be to you, in front of you at the next council meeting with the draft results of that work. It'll have a tentative rate schedule that we want you to look at, and just so that we can see if the appetite for that, in fact, is what it matches. We're trying to get it to where it's pretty reasonable to cover our expected costs, but we need to come to you as well with a package of improvements the same night for the wastewater project, which we've had in the capital plan for some time now. And so the timing on that is to say, if this is within the ballpark, we're not going to ask you to adopt rates next time. We're just going to have to take a look at what this is, within 10% tolerance one way or the other. Not 10% rates, but just within a couple of points or up or down, whether you think we're on target so that we can go forward with much needed wastewater improvements. So you'll see both of those the same evening. We won't be asking you to adopt anything, but we will be sharing with the latest and greatest information we have is at that point. We will come back to you with a final document in October, and still at that point we won't be asking for action other than acceptance of the report. And then finally in December we'll come to you with our annual rate, our annual rate review, rate adjustments, which should be in line with that report. So we'll be surprised you by that time.
That'd be like the annual and then the next couple of years probable?
Well,
Yeah, I mean, the rate study looks out actually for a 20-year horizon, but what you'll be looking at is really the first 5 years of that work. And so, that'll give you an answer, that'll give you a pretty good idea over the next 5 years. Subject to annual review and tweaking what will be coming to you every December with. We think we've operated this way in the past. It's just consistent with that. So, questions, or we get closer around to the report?
You're good, keep going.
I've seen some glazed eyes, I'm not sure if that means questions, we're just barely keeping awake. Tree trimming will begin sometime in September with Public Works crew. And then we're running into one other thing, I just want to share this with you, the chief shared with me earlier today. The federal grants are now coming with a new string attached certification. And that certification is that we comply with the immigration laws that they are taking on by aggressive enforcement with. It puts us in conflict, directly in conflict with state law. And so we're probably in a position, we'll look to our attorney at some point in time, but we're probably in a position where we're going to have to, we don't rely heavily on federal grants, but they are helpful. We may have to turn those away as other agencies will lower them as well. So it's unfortunate, but that is the reality of what we're living with, and just want to share that with you, just because it's sort of a frustration for us.
Okay.
After tonight.
Would you like to make the introduction for the next portion?
Yeah, I would. Let me grab my, so we're on to water rates, I believe.
No, we're on to the traveling exhibit from the museum. I didn't know if you wanted to introduce your staff member.
I would do the introduction, but I'm terribly, I got a little blank going on in my head right now, I'm sorry. From our museum staff.
Welcome, Shannon.
Anyway, if you would, I'll let Shannon continue with this presentation. But if you haven't had a chance to look at the exhibit in the hallway from the internment exhibit, it's an amazing collection. It's harking back some stories from your family. So,
Please.
Thank you. And I just wanted to piggyback on your comments about Indigo Star. We had an open house at the museum the Sunday before the eclipse. We had over 100 visitors.
Wow. That's great.
Thank you, Mayor McCardle, councilors, and city leaders for giving me this opportunity to present the Architecture of Internment exhibit. My name is Shannon Cocaine, and I work at the Heritage Museum. The Architecture of Internment exhibit is a traveling exhibit put together by Graham Street Productions, an organization in Portland that creates socially relevant documentaries, books, and exhibits to educate, inspire, and mobilize audiences. The Heritage Museum, through its Board of Commissioners and the Heritage Museum Society, is moving toward developing culturally focused exhibits to augment our current pioneer-based collection. This exhibit is an expression of that broadened focus. The exhibit highlights the role of Oregonians in the decision to incarcerate Japanese Americans and Japanese immigrants. 120,000 people of Japanese ancestry, 2/3 of them U.S. citizens, were incarcerated during World War II. The exhibit is made up of personal letters and proclamations from Oregonians to Governor Sprague in 1941 and 1942, advocating for the exclusion and incarceration of Oregonian Japanese Americans. It includes Governor Sprague's responses to these letters and proclamations, revealing his changing position under political and social pressure. You'll also find blueprints of potential assembly center and relocation camp locations, such as racetracks and fairgrounds. And finally included too are letters from Japanese Americans expressing outrage about the injustice. The timing of this exhibit could not have been more appropriate given recent events in Charlottesville, Virginia. Museums play very important roles in our society. They are holders of the truth and keepers of history. And as such, it's important that museums like ours, no matter how small, make every effort to educate, inspire, and mobilize audiences with new and socially relevant exhibits such as this one. Toward this end, we're working on a Latina-focused exhibit that we hope to install at Western Oregon University this fall, as well as a review of our Native American relics and the introduction of craft and indigenous plant classes in partnership with the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. At some point in the future, provided we can identify adequate space, we'd like to install permanent culturally focused exhibits at the museum which clearly identify the heritage of our local area. And just this morning, I was contacted by Native American filmmaker Stephen Simpson to let me know the film Neither Wolf Nor Dog is opening at the Independent Cinema this Friday. The film is the story of two men struggling to find a common voice and provides an important Native perspective regarding the difference between land and property, the power of silence, and the selling of sacred ceremonies. I hope you'll all find time to attend. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed the exhibit. It runs through September 6th.
Thank you very much. I have had the chance to take a look at those, and I know people who were part of the internment. Some of our family friends live. Marcus went to school with the grandson, and grandma was in one of the internment camps, and so I think it's an important thing for people to know about, to understand, and to reflect upon. So I do encourage people to take a look. It's an important piece of our American history. So thank you very much for taking the time. Okay, we're going to move on to new business. Mr. Klein, I think it's back to you now. Now it's water rights.
So tonight with me, we have Adam Sussman, our engineer from GFI Engineering of Corvallis. You have a staff report from me that describes, and prepared largely by Adam with some review by myself and some amendments by myself. But we've been looking at this issue now for going on, this is probably the third year. We've been working towards addressing what we believe to be a gap in the water sustainability, water certainty of this community going forward. We've seen extended droughts in our neighbor and what that has done for them and done to them. And while we don't know what the future holds, we feel like it's our responsibility to make sure that the city is as prepared as it could be going forward with its water supply. The city has for some time had a very robust portfolio of water rights, both groundwater and recently acquired surface water rights from Willamette. Those rights, as we've discussed with you under a couple of different occasions, are very what are known as very junior rights of the river. They are in water, in the world of water, your rights are based on your time to file. So you're right, well, the longer ago that you filed your rights and certified those rights, the more access you have to those rights. So it's, with that in mind, we've said, 2005 water right, it's got many other more senior rights in front of it. And if the river was ever regulated, or if there was a call in the river, meaning that there was a shortfall of water in the river when you needed it, your rights would be on a priority and unavailable to you. When you needed it the most, you couldn't get it. So that's the point of that. It was pointed out that by Mr. Julep, that 1.3 million gallons per day was a number he threw out. We have exceeded 1.9 million this month alone. So even if you just took that comparison, we're short already just using that. We do have an abundance of portfolio in groundwater rights as well. So we're not in water shortfall now. This is all about the future. So I'll let Adam Sussman address this a little further, but you have full report. We're not just going to hold a lot of time with you, on the details of this transaction. We're happy to meet with this gentleman at later times so we can talk, spend some time in detail talking about the concerns that he has, and they're valid concerns, but I think we've addressed those up and down and are very familiar with why we are going forward with this project. And that in front of you is the proposed agreement, it's the best deal that could be had on this for these rights. It's similar, that the cities of Minville and some of its partners entered into on similar rights. Ours are actually a little more senior to theirs. And it puts us ahead of the state in their industry rights, which is a big chunk of water when you need it. So that's what this is about. So Adam, if you want to supplement my comments.
Welcome to council this evening.
Yeah, thank you. So Adam Sussman of GSI Water Solutions, thanks for having me tonight. I think David's correct. The staff report, I think, does a good job of really capsulizing what we're doing. I think that the question that was presented earlier is a great question. I'm just going to reiterate what David was saying, that you have to think about this water right that the city is contemplating acquiring in kind of two different ways. One, you're really thinking about your future water supply, and it's like land use where you're thinking out 20 years, let's say, for your water supply. You really should be, and you are, and I would hand it to you, that you're thinking 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road. So you're planning for that now. So that's sort of part A of why this water right is important. But also, as David said, for the resiliency of the supply that you have now, you do have an abundance of groundwater rights. They're shallow groundwater rights, and you want to be prepared in the event of a long-term drought. You know, we did in 2015, we had a drought of 1 year. You want to be thinking about what if that happened 3 years in a row? What would happen to your groundwater supply? What would happen to your 2005 water right on the Willamette River? So it's both to be thinking about your future and also to be thinking about resiliency of your supply today. And I wanted to also mention that the projections of the city's future demand for water are articulated in great detail in 2 documents that I believe was provided to the city council. One was your water system master plan, where the staff and your engineer go through and really talk about in detail kind of what your water requirements are, what your projected growth might be, and also your water management and conservation plan. And in both of those documents, they identify the need for your next incremental water, for your growth over time, to be the Willamette River. And their water right, the 2005 water right, and I'm going to talk in CFS, so just ignore my units here. It's a little over 4 CFS, half of which the city of Independence was intending to develop. So that 2 CFS, or the 1.3 million gallons a day, that's where it came from. That's what the city's engineers in these documents already developed and been contemplating as approximately your future demand for water and for surface water. Again, I think the staff report is very comprehensive. The one point that I would make, and I don't think was in the staff report, and I would really hand this to both David and your attorney, is that the agreement that you have, so I'm not an attorney, I'm not providing legal advice, but my participation in that agreement is that it's a really good agreement. Basically, it says the city will provide some earnest money and then go through the process of acquiring the water right, moving it from where it is today to where it is now, and to make sure that every expectation that we have in terms of how much water, where we can use it, the conditions on it, that all of those are met to the city's satisfaction. Okay? If that doesn't happen, then the city, of course, has the opportunity to not consummate the deal. So it's a very protective agreement. And again, I hand it to David and your attorney for doing a good job of negotiating that. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, I know we've been talking about this water rights stuff for a couple of years now, and I look forward to moving forward as we see fit.
Yeah, one more point if I could. So I did receive one question in advance of this presentation, and that's the cost of this effort. Just so you know, this has been included in the rate review work that we've done. The water fund itself is a fairly healthy fund, and there's going to be a fairly limited impact on rates from this effort. You're talking under $1 million total. It sounds like a lot. The wastewater project is well in excess of $6 million, and over the course of years is far more than that. So if wastewater is going to see the lion's share of impact in the rate conversation on water will be a fairly minimal impact going forward for a number of years, even with this acquisition.
So, questions for the presenters?
I have a question.
Please, Mr. Day.
So it's one thing to have water, but it's another thing to make it so that it's drinkable water. Now, I'm guessing, at least in my opinion, the Wima's not, I wouldn't drink out of it. So we would still need capital to do that, or is it just plumbed right into what we already have?
There is in fact there's been an ongoing joint effort with the city of Monmouth to develop the surface water of the Willamette. So we jointly built a well field in the Independence jurisdiction. There's several wells, 3 of them I believe, and they're split amongst the 2 cities. And then there is in the works a pilot treatment facility and distribution. So you have to take the water at the wellhead to somewhere. The planning right now is to take it to the Monmouth site, do treatment at their tank site over on 4th down in Freedom Estate subdivision, where I live. Treat it at that location, and then distribute it to the respective cities. regardless of whether it's this water or the 2005 water, that was always in the planning, and that was always the spending that we've already done to date that we plan to do in the future. This just adds more certainty to the water supply that's reaching those wells.
So then we would charge Monmouth?
Well, there's nothing that prevent us to go to Monmouth after this deal is consummate. Would you like to share this? You know, the two CFS is actually a fairly large supply of water. And so you know, we could go to them once we conclude this deal and say, we've acquired these rights. You know, if there's a shortfall in the river, you don't want to get caught short, so maybe you want to join us in, you know, either buying a portion of it, leasing it, who knows? We haven't had that conversation yet. But there may be another way to sort of reimburse ourselves for some of the
I guess if we don't have a way of treating the water, then you can't just turn the spigot on. It's a lead time to get a filtration plant or whatever up to speed. So it's once we do this, I can see the next thing coming as a capital, some kind of request saying, well, now that we've got this, we need this.
Well, you've already had that in front of you, and you've already approved that in the form of a capital plan some time ago. In fact, the first steps of that plan have been long consummated and done. The work building the wellheads is long, and
that's
on
not-
my arrival.
But the wellheads aren't the same as a filtration plant, are they?
No, but they're the first place you start. You got to pump water out of the river. You take it from there, you take a pipeline somewhere, and in this case, we'll take it to the Monmouth tank field, where the proposed treatment facility will be. From there, you treat it. We have to build that. We have to come up with an operating agreement between us and Monmouth, how that's going to be paid for, how that's going to be operated. But that's been long planned for in both cities' water master plans. There's nothing new with any of that. The only thing new at the table right now is these water rates. We've always planned and started to spend.
So that's already in our plan rate.
It's already in our plans. We've been working with Monmouth for years on that, and jointly working with them on that for years. Before I arrived, since I've arrived, that hasn't changed.
Okay.
We've been pursuing that to the end for some time now, because it's their water security and our water security.
Adam, do you want to add?
Just one point of clarification, because I saw, there might be some confusion about, well, this is a surface water right, it's coming from upstream, going down the Willamette River. So I just want to make clear that part of the acquisition of the water right and the process that we would go through would allow the city to appropriate this river water from these wells that are adjacent to the river and very strongly hydraulically connected. It's essentially river water.
Oh, so you could actually take this from,
You're-
we're buying the rights, but we're gonna pump it out of the ground, and they kind of tie together?
Correct. The state, I know that's kind of confusing. That's why I thought, because I thought that might be a point of confusion. There's a test that you have to pass with your well about the level of connection with the river, which we've already run the test and we passed with flying colors.
Okay.
So when we move the water right from upstream on the Willamette down here, what we'll do is we'll provide the city the ultimate flexibility to someday, if they wanted to have a surface water diversion in a conventional water treatment plant, they could do that, or they continue to get filtration through the ground and appropriate it from the well.
I got it. That makes sense.
Either option.
I thought you were going to say about Moody and groundwater.
Oh, yeah.
Direct influence. I know where you're going with this.
Additional questions? I think some other people have questions.
Can you remind me what the date of the certificate is?
1954, I believe, is the one.
Yes.
That's what I said.
I have a question. Could you talk to, expand a little bit on the comment about the significance of being ahead of the state? Could you explain why that is significant? And yes, please.
Yeah, I'll try not to, again, Adam Sussman with GSI, we'll try not to get two level 500 water rights here for you. But to make a long story short, just like there are water rights from the river to take water out for municipal supply or irrigation, there are also water rights that can be established to leave the water in the river. And the state of Oregon, in various stretches of the Willamette River, has a number of water rights to protect the water and stream, and the date for those are 1964. Okay, and so in the professional work that I've done, I worked for the Water Resources Department for 14 years, and I've been consulting since 2005. It's pretty clear to me in the kind of scenario that we're thinking of when we've had, a drought for maybe a couple years in a row, and the flows are getting low, that's likely that's the most likely trigger, as David described, for regulating existing water rights would be those 1964 water rights not being met. They're very large, they take up a lot of the water in the Willamette River. I don't want to give you the impression that's a bad thing. I mean, it's a good thing for the state's policy objectives. But if you're on the other side of that priority date wise, you need to be thinking about your water supply resilience. That's what we're doing.
I'm struck by, as we were doing some of our early work, we looked at the first water rights that were secured by the city back in 1951. And I was struck by the folks that made those decisions back then, making decisions that we're all younger than 1951. And so they were making decisions that impacted us. So the kind of, would it be fair to say that the kind of decision we're making tonight might not be just 20 years, it's going to be 30, 40, 50 years. And that's one of the reasons we have to take a long look.
Yeah,
And the reason I ask that is because I know you work with a number of other cities.
Yeah, what you're doing is a very common practice right now, especially I think when you have a big event like the 2015 drought. It just kind of really makes you think about, what is my water supply, what's the resiliency of it, what's my plan for the long term. So yeah, absolutely, you're thinking out 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. And someday, someone, I hope, will look back at this night and will recognize what a great value, what a great benefit it was for the city. Absolutely.
Additional questions for the presenters?
I'd like to
Please
know
do.
if Herb thinks, did they answer your questions, Herb?
I'd like some probably more detail, but yes, we're going in the right direction.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. If there are no additional questions, let's go to the next step.
I move to authorize the city manager to enter into a water right conveyance agreement with International Paper Company, substantially similar to the draft agreement provided as attachment A to the staff report.
I have a motion.
Second.
And I have a second. We now have discussion. Everybody okay? Anybody have any comments? This feels really good. This is
why we're here.
This is why we're here. This is the long view. With no additional discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Mr. Irvine.
Thanks, David.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is another one that I think the staff report should more or less speak for itself. We've got a couple of design contracts, park design contracts to bring before you. This is primarily because they exceed the normal limit for the city manager authorized to sign. As I indicated in the report, we received 2 different grant awards recently to fund development of the Independence Landing Park and then also the Riverview Park area there. And both of these contracts are with Greenworks to really do that work. The Independence Landing Park will be developing construction documents for the kind of the park design that was already developed. Those were going to be bid over the winter, spring of next year. The Riverview Park project is a little bigger, a little more conceptual, so that's going to involve some public input and a little more process. But I think it's important because that's a little bit bigger, more public area, and so we got to make sure we get it right. Be happy to answer any questions, but I think that's about all I have for you.
Please do.
I didn't understand the 30% and the 90%. What exactly what's going on there?
So it's kind of a rough way of indicating how close to final design you are. So 30% is essentially you've got conceptual drawings and you've taken them a step beyond concept to start doing grading and figuring out what things go where. But you're still a long way from, hey, you can build this. 90% is essentially your almost final draft. You've got everything where it should be, all your grading lines match up, everything is the way that according to code, and you've double checked everything. And it's really kind of that last, okay, what did we miss before you turn it into the final bid documents?
Got it, thank you.
So along those lines, so that we're, this is the Independence Landing portion. Then what we're getting, eventually we'll get through with this contract is we'll have construction documents, so we'll be 90%, is that where we'll be?
I mean, yeah, and ultimately you get, what's essentially 100% of the bid documents.
Okay.
But yeah, so the Independence Landing one will move fairly quickly because like I said, we've already kind of got the design, it's just a matter of turning it into a construction-ready document set. And so that one will, like I said, the target would be to be able to put that one out for bid for in kind of winter, maybe early spring of this coming year, so that it can be built, late spring or summer of this coming year. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. And then the reason they're more expensive is you've got those detailed construction documents.
Exactly. And what we've got right now is essentially pre-drawings on paper.
Yeah. They're very pretty.
Yes.
Councilor Moore?
Yes, Sean, I noticed there is at least one spot in here, and you mentioned open house.
Yeah.
Is there an open house provision for both of these projects?
No, the Independence Landing one, we felt like was looked at decently during the original concept planning process for that area. We needed to get it to a good enough point for that grant process, and we thought it was a fairly straightforward park space. We decided we didn't want to take the extra step of going out to the public and incorporating that. Riverview Park, that area, it's bigger, it's a little more in the middle of everything, it ties in with everything a little bit more. It's also the area that we really identified as this is where the public is going to access the river in many different ways. So that's where we're saying, yeah, this really makes sense to involve the public a little bit more and make sure that we've kind of taken that public input.
Okay, I would just add my feeling in that I think there should be an open house aspect to each one of them, because even though Independence Landing is part of a larger project and it has already been looked at, it's a very long project, and the city residents should feel that they have a similar amount of buy-in and stake in the project as they do in Riverview Park. I think that made a real difference in having the public engaged in all the steps of Riverview Park. Really makes the public feel like that's their decision to create that. And since we have a grant money to do the rest of the Independence Landing Park area with, I think an open to the public, at least an open viewing or something of that nature would be helpful, because it also puts another event between today and when that hotel and everything else starts going up.
Yeah, I imagine, we obviously will have to look at the timing, but I wouldn't be surprised if we could, with the open house for Riverview Park somehow pull in the Independence Landing Park as well. I mean, at the very least, our biggest concern about Riverview Park is that interface between Riverview Park and Independence Landing Park and how all that kind of fits together. So that really will influence it.
But evidence that things are moving along is always a valuable thing to the public.
But along those lines, the Independence Landing, we already have some kind of conceptual plans that those aren't changing significantly. There's probably just a little minor tweaking and.
Yes, yeah, because we had good, essentially plans that were far enough along that, we submitted the grant based on those plans. So if we suddenly said, oh, hey, we're gonna take your money and put a splash pad here and do all this other stuff that wasn't in the plans that we gave you, we would need to provide significant explanation on as far as why we decided to take airlines.
Everybody okay?
Yep.
If someone would like to suggest action, that would be,
Can we do this 2 for 1?
Karen, can
They
we do both motions at the same time?
do need to be separate motions.
Okay.
Can I make 2 motions at once?
I think she wants one at a time.
Okay. I
No,
move
she
to
is.
approve a contract with Greenworks in the amount of $98,658.55 for development of Phase 1 of Independence Landing Park.
I have a motion, second discussion. I think we're all okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, motion carries. And if you care to go on to the
I
second
would
one.
care to. I move to approve a contract with Greenworks in the amount of $54,697.50 for design of improvements to Riverview Park.
I have a motion.
Second.
Second by Diana. Is there discussion? I think we're all okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
love using money that's already in hand.
Yes, that is nice. Moving forward to Mr. Klein, I think you have a repeal here.
My name's on it, I'm not sure I prepared any of this, but it's fairly straightforward and simple. We're asking you to repeal the special park rules that we came up with for It Goes Dark and just revert back to the standard park rules that we've used successfully all these years.
Questions?
I had a quick question. In the future, can we have sunset provisions so we can say these rules are gonna end in 2 weeks or whatever, or a week, or would that have been an easier way to do
We will
that?
definitely do that for the next eclipse.
That is so funny, a resolution, repeal a resolution.
There you go. Would you like to make a motion, Tom?
Sure. I move to adopt resolution number 17-1462, repealing resolution number 17-1459.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Let me get to my calendar, get my schedule here. And, hold on, I've got to do this. Okay, let's do any council announcements before we go to executive session, please. Anybody have council announcements?
Oh, yes.
Why am I not surprised?
Marilyn, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Diane.
Councilor Martin.
There is a ghost walk coming up on the 22nd of September. I appreciate all the people who have volunteered to help, who are sitting in this room. I need more assistance, please. It's a one-night opportunity for you. It lasts about 2 hours tops, and I even provide some training for you. It's easy, it's fun, and that's all I have to say about
I
that.
think many of us have done it.
Please volunteer. I know some of you have letters asking you to volunteer.
I know
And I
that.
have not heard from those folks yet.
Is this called public pressure?
Not at all.
Thank you.
The other item is that I'm not sure how it worked out this way. I must have been a glutton for punishment but 3 days after the Ghost Walk, there is the first annual Independence Downtown Association Murder Mystery Dinner. And we have cast members, at least one of them in the audience, maybe more than one. 2 over there, I see. I am still looking for some cast members. Again, it's a one-time deal. Nobody has any great amount of lines. You are going to add flavor to the evening. It is based on real historic characters, although participating in events that I'm not sure they actually participated in, like committing murder.
Nice touch.
But the tickets are $50 a piece, and it's a lovely dinner at Independence Grill, and 1/2 of your ticket price is tax deductible because the Downtown Association is using this as a fundraiser, and it's a 501c3.
Thank you. Additional council comments at this point?
Well, mine isn't going to be nearly that much fun. And there will be more to come. I had the opportunity last week to sit down with a group of folks who have begun to explore the concept of natural gas trolleys connecting our 2 communities. So, starting to lay some groundwork, interesting things ahead.
Thank
Both
you.
communities well represented.
Great. Okay.
Cool.
Yes, sir.
For David, in your meetings, you brought up that met with new owner of Independence Station and a few members of his team. Was there anything you can share that came out of that, or?
I can share that I let them know that I'm getting towards the sunset of my own career, and
and that if he is looking for any kind of deals that I would be a part of, he should move quickly. I think he got the message.
Well done.
Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna have an executive session to take about real estate. I'll read the proper forms. We'll come back after the executive session. We have to adjourn this meeting, and then we'll go downstairs for a work session, okay? So that's, the Independent City Council will now meet in executive session for the purpose of negotiating real property transactions. The executive session is held pursuant to ORS 1926602E, which allows the council to meet in executive session. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decisions will be made in executive session. This time, the council will adjourn to the conference room for the duration of the executive session. Once the executive session has adjourned, we'll return to open session in the council chambers to adjourn the meeting. And we don't anticipate any action to be taken after the executive session. Just want to kind of, for folks. Okay, so let's go to the conference room.
Move to adjourn.
Second, I have a motion second to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay.